So for a few months, I've been watching pottery videos on YouTube, and I became really interested um, in watching these videos. I thought it was interesting. It was relaxing. I love to see how the potter can think up something that he wants to make and then take some clay, put it on the pottery wheel, and start making it. And as I'm watching these videos, I started to see them differently. The Holy Spirit began to really speak to me as I was watching these videos, and I began to realize how the potter making the pottery and the process that he goes through is very much comparable to the human experience, to how God creates us and forms us. And I'm watching these videos and how the potter, he's very particular about these pieces that he's making, right? It's amazing how he can take just a piece of nothing. It has no shape, no form, and he creates something beautiful from it. From something that it's nothing at first, but in the hands of the potter, it becomes something beautiful. It becomes a masterpiece. And that's what God does with us. And it's amazing because when God creates a masterpiece, he takes his time. It doesn't happen overnight. He's not in a hurry. He knows exactly what to do. And it's just so amazing. And we know that the Bible compares God to a potter. And I want you to know that God, when he created you, he created a masterpiece, full of purpose, full of potential. I want you to know that you are a masterpiece. And it's very intriguing because what God does, God has a purpose in mind, and so he creates a vessel to perform that purpose. Watch this. The potter, if he wants to drink something, he says, okay, I need something to be able to feel liquid so that I can drink something. So he has a purpose in mind, and then he goes and creates something to fulfill that purpose. Right? That's what God is doing. God has a purpose for you. And then he goes and he has a purpose in mind, and then he goes and creates a vessel. He forms something called you, and he enables you to fulfill that purpose that he had already set out. You existed in the mind and in the plan of God even before time began. But how does God create a masterpiece? How does God create the masterpiece called you? Well, the first thing that he does is he forms you. So what the potter does, he takes the clay out of the bag, okay? The clay does not go immediately on the wheel. No, first he has to do what's called wedging it. He has to wedge it. He has to use his hands and really start to give it some form, getting the air bubbles out so that it can be prepared to get on the potter's wheel. We know that Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And we know that points to the foreknowledge of God. That before you were in your mother's womb, God knew you. But it also points to something else. It also points to where it says, before I formed you in your mother's womb. It is God that formed you to begin with. God formed you in your mother's womb. And it's amazing how God can take the DNA from your mom and the DNA from your dad and make you. And not just DNA, but DNA encompasses your personality, how you walk, how you talk, what you like, your passions, what your desires are. That's all place that God is forming you in your mother's womb. It's God that forms you. So the first thing God does is he forms you in your mother's womb. Now, that's not all. Make sure you subscribe because the next step is coming.